Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I'm the Gray Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Thursday, March 28th, 2024. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread for today? We're starting with 2 cards today coming out. Judgment in its reversal in combination with our 6 of Cups. I'm not surprised to see this. One of the things that we've been seeing right now, bearing in mind all of the frequencies, there is a moment. What did I say prior to beginning this, doing our recap? We are seeing a lot of this energy right now in doing that self-review. Why do we move into that process of doing self-reviews? Self-reviews are critical, important work when we are finding ourselves on spiritual and energetic journeys, because one of the things that we've identified and recognized is even when we're in the frequency of divine union, that is not a static place. You don't just arrive there and stay the space or place that you were when you first entered it. A lot of the energy right now is looking towards each other and even utilizing that connection with the counterpart to be able to affirm, to be able to see how much someone has grown, to see how much someone has changed. Why do we take those moments of reconsideration point on those milestones in our journey? Because that is that observational point that as we grow and change, our own opinions may change on things. Our own consideration points may come into play. So what we are seeing for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency right now is this is that moment that feels like a point of elasticity that is potentially occurring. And this could even be happening around circumstances and situations that you may have previously or prior to this point felt incredibly rigid towards. What is the benefit of being able to look at things with a sense of adaptability, with a sense of energetic curiosity? That is that flexibility that happens when we build that sense of energetic strength. So what we're seeing that is happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency is this adaptability. This ability to look at things with a new set of eyes is specifically due to the fact that the connection that you have created with someone is becoming substantial enough, stable enough. I told you, it feels like to a certain extent taking the energetic training wheels off of something. Something that you may have felt was integral or necessary is now feeling like it's a little bit energetically superfluous. That is the gift of energetic expansion, if you will, because that ability, like what happens when we become so good at something that we don't need to rely upon the energetic tools around us, right? That is the moment that we see that for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, the strength, the value, the significance of the energetic connection that you are creating with the counterpart is allowing for flexibility in ways and places and spaces that you may not necessarily have ever experienced before. This is almost, again, that moment that feels, and I want to put it like this, the best way I can articulate something like this is when you build a connection with someone and you come into that sense where you suddenly have that point of adaptability, but it's not even adaptability that you have outside of an energetic connection. It's almost that moment of saying, well, for you, I am flexible. For you, I am adaptable. For you, I am curious. For you, I have that ability to move in that way because what is created between us is so strong, right? That is that moment that you feel that energetic muscle between you and another person, like the energetic or spiritual connection between you is almost like a muscle. So what happens when you build and strengthen that energetic muscle between you and another person? It allows for you to do things that you can't do with other energy. It allows you to take what may have felt impossible or a hard no in the past and suddenly say, well, now I can reconsider that. So we see even now, this is why we see that self-review, as it were, is almost allowing a level or degree of energetic repacking I told you that spiritual or energetic spring cleaning that we've been seeing that has been occurring for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency right now, because it's not because we see these types of shifts, and it's not because something is falling apart. It's because something is becoming so strong, right? Sometimes what's interesting, and this is what we always have to observe, when things are falling apart, like sometimes you see a shell breaking on something and you think something's breaking. Sometimes a shell is breaking on something because something has grown too big for it. So we see that for a lot of the energy right now in the divine union, this is almost feeling like that moment of like profound like catharsis, because that's that moment that you're almost experiencing a little bit of energetic breakthrough, potentially even around like where you may have decided or decisions that you may have made prior to entering the divine union frequency, because that is built on the energetic strength that has been happening with the amount of being able to sustain and to refine that type of energetic connection. Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency, this is that energetic moment of not giving a not giving a single care in the world about what the energy around you effectively or energetically feels in response to what you are energetically creating with another person. And this is that moment that we see that for a lot of the energy coming into the divine union frequency, that feeling of holding forth towards one another and saying that that isn't something that you're doing for some kind of outside energetic approval, but you're doing it because of what you energetically feel for another. That is the expansion point of the energetic bond. That is the healing of a karmic connection, if you will. That is a strong connection that is occurring, because that is a connection that feels like it's not moving or adaptable in that way just because it's easy. It's almost a way, this is the energy of a relationship that has been energetically tested. It's been like forged in that fire, if you will, because it's that moment that shows that it is about the connection point and not about the energy around it. So for a lot of this energy coming through that point, being able to push through either the energetic experience that may have felt the intensity of a buildup of an emotion that may have led you to previously self-sabotage, or experiencing that moment energetically where seeing all of the activations around you at a time of you coming into divine union, letting that pull you out, if you were, that's that moment that this is the energy that feels like, again, that's that us against the world kind of energy that you see and experience in the heart of the frequency that shows that ability. Like this is the energy that almost feels like that connection has occurred, and that's that energy that's moving further forward into it. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This modality in separation, this is what we see is now creating. And this is so funny because we saw this card yesterday coming up. This is feeling potentially a little bit more problematic right now, because what are we identifying that is happening between the masculine and feminine energy in separation? Two lessons that aren't necessarily like they haven't reached the right energetic convergence point yet, right? Because we got feminine that's utilizing that extremely heightened power of energetic discernment, looking towards masculine in order to find authenticity, right? Building in an authentic way, but also intentionality, requiring that ability to be able to know which direction they are moving towards. They need to come together. The feminine needs to see both parts of that. It's like a two-part entry. And so for the feminine energy, seeing some masculine energy approaching them at this time, potentially even building some new energetic connections with masculine that is coming towards feminine from a state or space of complete clarity. Authenticity. What happens when feminine experiences masculine with authenticity but no intentionality? Feminine just sees it as energetic confusion. If masculine isn't articulating the confusion, it doesn't even need to be articulated, because the feminine can just experience it. It's like as evident as like the nose on their face. Like if there's an authenticity point without an intentionality point, it creates energetic confusion. So what is potentially happening for some of the feminine energy that is experiencing this on the part of a masculine? This is potentially some feminine energy that's making a lot of friends right now. This is probably a lot of feminine energy that's like, we're going to be good friends. we're going to be great friends. But like, that's that moment that is almost that point of the feminine saying, I'm not going to lead forth in this. This is feminine energy, not giving, not creating, not offering that manifestation goal to the masculine right now until they're seeing it. And I have to say this again, this is not due to the fact that this is a feminine that's trying to withhold from the masculine. This is feminine energy coming from the lesson of not wanting the masculine to energetically steal the feminine's homework. This is the feminine energy potentially having experienced spaces and places where feminine articulated their manifestation goals to masculine, and masculine went, I want that. And then feminine's like, are you going to be able to do the things that's required to do that? And masculine's like, nope. Right? That's like, in a way, like, that's a lot of the experience that we're seeing that a lot of the feminine has, which is why, again, this is almost feminine energy that's having that modality of saying to masculine, if not verbally, but energetically, I'll show you mine if you show me yours. But you need to show me yours first, because I need to see that you have those aspirations. You're not just going to affirm mine for the sake of building a passionate connection, right? So we see that a lot of the feminine energy may be taking a lot of masculine and being like, you're going to be a good friend right now energetically, because they need to see that masculine coming forward from a point of intentionality. And that's the feminine not doing that for any other reason than to energetically protect their own heart space, right? That's the feminine energy taking that karmic lesson. Masculine energy, you may be experiencing this right now. And again, if this is masculine energy that is feeling a frustration point because you are trying to lead forth to feminine and you're trying to be as honest as possible, and now you're getting all upset because you're saying to yourself, if I'm being honest as possible, why is all this feminine energy not moving towards me with passion? That's because you haven't combined the authenticity with the intentionality. So if all you're doing is coming towards feminine and you're being authentic about the fact that you're confused, that's not the feminine energy seeing what they need to be able to move forward in towards a manifestation goal. The feminine is looking for you to be able to articulate on what your manifestation goal is. So for masculine energy at this time, this could be a moment, and we see even now, this is a moment that where a lot of the masculine energy is just hitting this moment that may feel like there's a point and problem area here. I'm not going to say problem, but a little bit of a hurdle right now, because we see that a lot of the masculine energy going through this energetic breakthrough may be feeling a bit of uncertainty in terms of what it is that you effectively or energetically want, right? What happens when you leave all your options open? When you move without intentionality, you'd end up without any choice. So we see even now that masculine energy going through this journey right now, if you're having all of these energetic breakthroughs because you're finally finding that ability to be honest and authentic with feminine, that's one part of it. The other part needs to be you moving forward really from a place of intentionality in relation to what it is that you are energetically seeking. And that's a feminine energy that's almost seeking that right now from masculine energy, even if they're experiencing masculine energy that's healed. Because this is almost a lot of feminine energy encountering masculine in this modality, saying they're healing. They're just not ready for partnership. They don't seem like they're exactly there yet, right? Because that's the feminine energy waiting. They want to see that masculine that has that manifestation goal. And that's why the feminine energy isn't revealing theirs to the masculine until they see that on the part of the masculine, because this is the feminine energy that knows to a certain extent. They're feeling that sense of being like, well, I know masculine didn't just arrive without that manifestation goal. It's not like when you see that energy, that's the difference between a feminine saying, masculine can't be just moving in the direction towards me without that goal and purpose, because that's the feminine energy basically saying, if that's the case, if masculine just grafts onto my manifestation goal, there may be a day that they will resent me for it. There may be a day where the masculine feels like they are energetically lost because that's not moving together. That's following someone and then potentially just having a lot of notes about that directionality, even if you're walking with that energy. So we see even now that a lot of this work right now, it feels like there's a lot of energetic healing that's happening in the space of separation, but it's not necessarily there yet in relationality to the convergence of the intentionality for some of the energy right now. And this is potentially why. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Second card in our 5-card spread, Ace of Cups and its reversal. So what we're energetically seeing to a certain extent, and even now, this is why we see that a lot of the feminine energy, if you're encountering this masculine energy right now in separation that feels like they're coming towards you from complete honesty, but complete confusion, This is the feminine energy that, again, this isn't a moment of the feminine feeling like this is a masculine that is intentionally trying to confuse the feminine. But this is a feminine energy that's almost trying to put a little bit of energetic distance between them and a masculine in that modality. Because again, what is feminine energy being careful of? The first directive, taking care of their energetic and spiritual self first and foremost to be able to help those around them. So for the feminine energy, this is almost a moment that feels a little bit energetically painful. Like the feminine's a little bit sad that they have to do this energetically right now, but this is the feminine energy that is almost, working so cautiously because they're still in that modality of energetic recovery. They're still recovering energetically from the space or place where they had to learn these lessons. And this is why we saw these same cards were in our reading yesterday of a feminine energy saying, I wish I could, but I can't do that again. Right? That's almost the feminine energy going, I can't do that again. And that's not feminine energy trying to say or articulate to masculine, I feel like you're going to do all the same things the last person did. This is the feminine energy saying, I am out energetically. I am energetically and spiritually depleted. I can't move into a modality of uncertainty because when I'm moving with an energy of a masculine that is uncertain, I reflect that uncertainty. I reflect that confusion. It's not a healthy space for me to occupy. So we see even now that that's that moment of, again, the feminine seeing a masculine coming towards them. And this is almost the feminine energy, like giving them that compassion without the passion, because this is the feminine energy putting a little bit of that energetic distance there, saying, I care about you, but I might be a little concerned that you're not yet energetically good for me, because your confusion, while it may not necessarily be intentional, is something that I need to inhabit and experience as we move forward into any kind of partnership scenario. Masculine, you may be hearing or seeing this on the part of a feminine right now. It may be this moment, and I have to say, for a lot of the masculine energy, I need to clear this up for you. If you're leading forward right now from a place of authenticity and clarity to feminine, but without that intentionality at play, and you're experiencing this moment of the feminine almost putting a little bit of energetic distance between you, this is potentially energetically why. This is not a sense or a space of the feminine not potentially wanting to build a connection with you, but more one that they observe and see that you may feel to a certain extent like you're energetically shiftless right now. Because what happens when we encounter someone that doesn't seem like they have that intentionality in terms of the direction that they're moving in? It feels like we see someone that may be in what we may want to describe as some moment of energetic or spiritual free fall. And that's not necessarily something that we energetically judge one another for, but in this way, we see that a lot of the feminine energy, if they're encountering masculine in this way, they're trying to do something where they feel like they're trying to bring that point of energetic compassion in, while also being conscientious and protective and guarded of their own heart space. So hopefully for a lot of the masculine energy, if you're going through this moment and it feels a little bit energetically difficult, making sure that you understand that that is not coming from a space or place of you not of being honest. That's not seeing something happening because you're honest. This isn't feminine energy that moves masculine energy into the friend zone because the masculine energy is honest with the feminine. This is a moment that we're seeing that, and this is why we saw yesterday some of this work coming through for a lot of the masculine in separation. You have to combine the two. You have to blend the oil and the water. You have to combine the intentionality with the honesty. And for a lot of the masculine energy, we saw that one of the things that may have been occurring over the last couple of days is if this was something that is occurring, you may be even recognizing that there's something about the connections in your own life where you may give some energy intentionality and some energy honesty. And if that's occurring here, that is also potentially a path or a space to be able to explore deeper path work. If that is a separation point within your own self, what is that energetic partitioning? That is a fear of energetic intimacy. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, between the energy coming into divine union, this is a lot of the energetic breakthrough potentially happening both for masculine and feminine energy in relationality to the lessons that are still being worked on right now for the energy that's in separation. So what we're effectively seeing for feminine, that ability of recognizing if this is the feminine energy coming into divine union, this is feminine energy validating and recognizing that power of energetic discernment, feeling the difference between an energy that is giving you something as opposed to something that you're energetically demanding. And even now we see that for a lot of the feminine energy in that modality, what we effectively see to a certain extent is a lot of that feminine energy, feeling that energetic overwhelm to a certain extent, and recognizing the spaces and places where they may have felt like they had to energetically demand something, as opposed to being able to effectively receive it. So that's that moment right now for feminine that may be feeling emotionally overwhelming, as it were. While for masculine energy in this modality coming into divine union, this recognition point, your own ability to be able to lead towards feminine with that combination of work, with intentionality and honesty, that is that moment that you are also potentially feeling the difference of the connection that you're building with the feminine, feeling the authenticity of that connection. Feels like that energetic validation point, but it can also feel energetically overwhelming, because that is that moment that you, again, what happens when you move into a space or place of understanding a lesson? You carry the grief in terms of what it may have energetically taken to be able to come across that lesson. Some of us would call that wisdom, right? Intelligence marked with the pain of understanding that comes via the experience. That is the cycle of wisdom. And while it is something that is important and valuable, it feels like it was energetically heavy to receive. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is that energetic work that is effectively or energetically happening right now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. And this has to do with a moment of energetic reassessment, because what is happening right now for the energy in the heart of divine union, the building up, the connective tissue that you have created energetically and spiritually with another person is such now that things that you may have felt were integral to be able to form the basis of partnership, they now feel like they are superfluous. And there is an assessment right now in terms of identifying what feels like it is valuable right now versus what feels like it needs to take in energetic consideration. Because what happens when we move into that space or place of expansion or growth, something that may have felt like it was restorative starts to feel like it's that drain point. It starts to feel like it's energetically unnecessary, right? It almost starts to feel like that energetic burden because you're not needing it so much, right? It's like the things that you carry that you're suddenly like, when was the last time we used this? We haven't used this in ages, right? It's like that moment that you almost like are able to like let something go. So we see that even now for a lot of the energy in the heart of the divine union, this is more of an energetic release process. And it does feel like almost energetically overwhelming to a certain extent, because it's the amplification of how far you've energetically come, right? And even now, there may be a moment of experiencing some sense of like emotional or energetic nostalgia in terms of where you may have been when you first entered the union to where you are now, that may feel like, again, a little bittersweet. Third card in our 5-card spread. What did I say about that nostalgia moment, right? That's that 7 of Swords just showing up on cue. Because what are we seeing for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency right now? This is that moment of looking at something, feeling the validation, feeling the joy of where you may find yourself presently, while also feeling a little bit of sadness in relationality to seeing that you can't energetically go back, right? A lot of that energy, like that's how we move in the divine union frequency. You always like hold a little bit, like nostalgia is looking back with sweetness and a little bit of energetic sadness, right? Because that's that moment that you say, I wouldn't relinquish what we have at present, but I also hold a lot of nostalgia for what we used to have, right? That is why it's so hard for us to energetically let go of things, because that is that process of releasing the past energetic self. So we see even now that there's a little bit of that energetic shedding process that is happening right now in the heart of the divine union frequency, that while it may feel affirming, it does feel a little emotionally or energetically overwhelming, because it is that acknowledgement point that is like that blessing, but there is a little bit of that like energetic pain that is associated with having that type of release. Like as we mature, we always look back, but that ability to do so is effectively the amplification in having not stagnated, right? Because that's that moment of saying we are always changing, we are always growing. And if we're looking back at the past self and we're able to see so different, that's like a moment of saying, see how far we've come. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union frequency right now, you don't have so much to look back on. These are partnerships. These are partnerships that are just starting to take root. These are energies that are just coming into these breakthroughs of building that connective tissue together. So what are you energetically looking back on? You're looking at the fact that once you enter the divine union frequency, you're letting go of some of that autonomous self. You're letting go of that past self. That's why we see a lot of this self-review work right now, because that's that moment of really taking in the deep energetic lesson, experiencing and seeing all of the things that may have led up to this point. What does that energy feel about those moments? Bittersweet. It wasn't that it wasn't all bad. It wasn't that it wasn't all good. So even now, being able to hold space and being able to look back and say, I'm going to miss some things, but for the most part, I'm not going to miss most of it. Like, that is the energy of coming into divine union, because that is what we feel in terms of, like, again, not feeling like something is a sacrifice so much as it's feeling like that energetic release process, because that's almost that moment of two energies moving into divine union and saying, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to leave that old world behind. I'm ready to leave that old life behind. I'm ready to leave my own like singular perception behind for what we are building together, which I recognize is so much greater. Doesn't mean I can't hold a little bit of like nostalgia or sadness for that, but that doesn't mean that I'm not energetically happy with that choice, because we see even now a lot of that energy is feeling that validation, potentially even going through that process together. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is the full tilt of the energy that's seeing not that moment. It's seeing the opposite of that. It's not seeing the validation of two energies. This is what we're seeing that's happening. Remember, I just said the energy coming into divine union is looking back and saying, I don't want to go back there. The anxiety of the feminine right now is potentially seeing a masculine that looks like they're looking too much behind them, right? This is a feminine that feels like this is a masculine that's eyes are too far cast on the past. If this is a feminine energy that's seeing a masculine that's being completely authentic, but all the masculine is talking about is a past connection, or something that they're still not sure about, or something that they're still working out with another person, or they've got other energies around them. This is the feminine energy saying, your authenticity, you've done half the work. I know that you're being completely honest and authentic with me, but your intentionality, your GPS is going all over the place. Like your compass doesn't have a direction. So this is why we see that a lot of the feminine energy encountering masculine in this modality may be putting a little bit of energetic distance between that, and almost articulating and being honest to masculine in the process and saying, listen, you seem great, but you also seem a little energetically confused. When you know what you want, potentially there may be a pathwork here, but it seems right now what a lot of the energy of the feminine may be saying to some masculine connections right now. It seems like your eye is a little bit too, you're getting, that meme. It's like you're getting whiplash because I see you staring this way every step of the way, right? So we see that for a lot of the feminine energy experiencing that could be a lot of that hard discussion that may be potentially happening right now. For masculine, you may be getting this and receiving this from the feminine. And this is that moment that either you may be absorbing that is true, right? If you're experiencing a moment where you're suddenly having an energetic breakthrough in terms of the way that you're building with feminine, but then feminine's also telling you, like, listen, I appreciate they're being completely honest, but it seems like you're being completely honest about the fact that you're energetically confused. Those two things can exist in the same space. But again, if there's a lot of masculine energy right now, I want to correct a lot of masculine energy on the healing journey. Don't feel like if you're being authentic, that always places you in a place of friendship with feminine. If you're being placed in a place of friendship with feminine, that potentially is because this is feminine energy that feels like they're not seeing that intentionality on your part. And when the feminine energy doesn't feel the intentionality, especially right now, because we see so much of this energy is so heightened on learning from the lessons of the karmic journey that they've just undergone. This is the feminine energy that is almost trying to say to you, I care about you, but I cannot repeat a past lesson. I cannot walk towards something that I feel like is giving me indications of something that I've just already experienced. So we see here that for a lot of the masculine energy navigating this right now, this is why a lot of the masculine energy, you may be feeling like you have to energetically pull away from some feminine right now, because it could be this observational point in recognizing that if you approach feminine from a state of energetic confusion, It's always going to potentially lead to energetic friendship as opposed to true partnership, because that's that moment of the feminine energy not necessarily understanding, either not understanding what it is that you desire or seeing the fact that you don't seem to know what it is that you desire. So we see even now that this is a lot of the masculine energy almost in separation going, oh, I'm doing it again. But the important thing about this, again, something that you see that you're doing is something that you can self-correct. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, this is difficult. This is a lot of difficulty for masculine energy in this modality right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. That sense of energetic conflict. Look at this. This is a moment for a lot of the masculine energy and separation that feels like a lot of internal battling right now. This is a masculine energy that's potentially, again, having some kind of energetic breakthrough that is very emotionally overwhelming. Because a lot of this may be occurring with some kind of path work that feels like self-correction. What happens when we have a personal breakthrough? We can look back on our own past and say, I wish I'd realized this sooner. And so for a lot of the masculine energy, if you're just having this breakthrough, a lot of this is looking back at something and saying, is there something that I've taken in the present context that I feel could fix or amend something? The important thing for the masculine energy in separation at this time, if you're going through this, is you have to pick a direction. You have to pick a direction, whatever that direction is. Because the energy, this is the thing that you have to understand. If you've been following along, the ability of feminine to sense the internal conflict in a masculine, there's never a space or place that you hide it. So for you to approach feminine from a place that you're feeling that energetic conflict, it's more like, even like regardless of whether you're expressing it or not, this is like the feminine that's going to pick up on it. This is the feminine that knows it. This feminine can feel it's there. So we see even now that this is that moment that may be feeling like the masculine energy is going through some kind of internal hurdle or battle right now, trying to identify and choose what that energetic direction is going to be. And I have to say, if there's an energetic conflict point for a lot of the masculine in separation right now, there may be a heightening of that intensity given the fact that we're in this eclipse season. So the intensity of the confusion may be feeling like it's getting harder to energetically bear. So I'm going to say this right now. Masculine energy, if you're going through this, I really want you to do a lot of work in energetically grounding and finding that path work that helps you find that like positive way of navigating whatever that energy of conflict is within you. Feminine energy, if in separation, this is that modality that you may also be feeling a lot of that frustration. I'm going to say now, this is potentially very triggering energy. Because this is almost, again, that feminine energy feeling the frustration of having to apply a lesson that they just learned sooner rather than later. It's not an easy lesson, right? It's not something that feminine wants to do. Feminine doesn't want to create that pathwork of resistance towards a masculine, but feminine's doing so for the sake of energetically protecting their heart space. So we see even now, this is feeling like another point of energetic intensity for a lot of the feminine energy, because both of these energies are almost saying it's happening again. But they're also working very hard on committing themselves to stopping what's energetically happening again. So for feminine to see the masculine potentially coming towards them with authenticity and being like, ooh, but having that energetic confusion, potentially energetic confusion about a past situation, feminine's going, oh, right? That's a feminine going, oh, like that's a feminine also going through that like that energetic disappointment moment, right? It's like the crowd goes, ah, like it's one of those kind of thing. For masculine, it's that moment too, because even now we see that both of these energies, masculine, if this is occurring, understanding that point of having to really and even now, if this is a moment with masculine, recognizing that there's been a separation point in your life between who you give intentionality to versus who you give honesty to, making those two come together, that's a very vulnerable act. It's hard, but we see that a lot of the energy right now of the masculine is working very much through that personal hurdle to ask themselves energetically why. Intimacy is the issue there, because authenticity with intentionality is the rarest form of intimacy. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is why the energy in divine union is able to navigate that, but they're keeping their GPS system intact, because this isn't the energy that doesn't feel that same nostalgia. But the point is, it's not driving or misdirecting them. It is nostalgia. Nostalgia is something that we look back on, but we don't want to go back to. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. Nostalgia is something that we look back on, but we don't go back to. The energy that's in that modality of coming into divine union right now, or in the heart of the divine union, has mastered the act of nostalgia, being able to assess the past without feeling like that past is moving them backwards or misdirecting them or helping them or making them lose focus in terms of where they are going. So we see even now, for a lot of the energy coming into divine union, that moment of energetic nostalgia is the affirmation. It is the confirmation. This is the energy almost talking to each other about the nostalgia, about leaving that past world behind in terms of what you're building forth with. They're celebrating the fact that they're looking back on things with nostalgia and even articulating on them, because things that we talk about are things that we're ready to energetically release. So even now, if this is a masculine energy in this modality who's building forth in the present, they've got that point of authenticity and intentionality with the feminine in the present, and they're talking about some things with nostalgia. This isn't a feminine energy that's affected by that, because this is the feminine energy that's like, well, of course you've got feelings about those past situations and circumstances. I have also lived on this earth. I also have those feelings, right? That's that connective tissue that we build, and being able to share an experience, but recognizing at every moment that someone's being able to share it is not giving an indication of someone who's trying to get back to it. Masculine and feminine in the heart, and that's that moment that feels like that point, that's the empowerment point of feeling like the breakthrough of saying it's us against the world. It's us against our past. It's us against our present. It's us against all of that energetic force. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. This is a lot of the shifting. We see even now there's a lot of energy in divine union making some kind of adjustments, either interpersonally or even in the partnership itself, due to the fact of the energy of the partnership evolving to such an extent. It may be even feeling like a lot of this energy, I have to stress this, a lot of energy in the divine union frequency is being like, I never expected to have these type of problems, right? Because they're nuanced. These are nuanced problems. They're the type of problems that you energetically experience when you're so bonded with another energy, that you can get into that level or degree of discernment. Like the conversations and arguments that, like, you kind of be like, nobody else would understand these things, because these are that moment when you're like in such a space or a heavy degree of refinement with someone that you're potentially having conversations that you can only have with that person. You can only have with that energy. Like, this is the level of discernment that we're seeing. But that's also because a lot of this energy has progressed to such a point in the heart of the divine union frequency that it feels like it creates that level or degree of energetic adaptability to a certain extent. And even that ability of having that point of adaptability, that point of refinement, is one that creates, different nuanced energetic problems. Fifth card in our 5-card spread, before we start getting clarification on these cards right now, is King of Pentacles. So what occurs right now when we have these experiences wherein we're able to build that level or degree of like nuance, even here, I gotta stress, particularly for the masculine energy and the divine union frequency, we like to see this because we saw that there was a little bit of that energetic conflict that's coming through. A lot of this is coming through for the sake or the space of a feminine seeing a masculine. That again, the feminine is continuing to build. What do we keep seeing that's happening right now for the energy in coming into the divine union and the energy in the heart of the divine union? Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. What happens when feminine feels the security and stability of a masculine that's able to navigate their intentionality, that holds that stability, even in the face of their own energetic expressions, that they even work to protect the feminine from? That's feminine feeling the sense of a masculine energy that they can truly trust, right? That is the energy of a feminine looking towards a masculine as their energetic rock. And I don't mean that energetic rock from like a monetary perspective or from a substantial perspective. It is feeling a masculine that knows what they aspire and desire. And the feminine feels at that moment the ability to be their most vulnerable, authentic expression of self because they feel they have that energy of the masculine there that is always protecting them. And what do I mean by protecting them? I mean that is always not protecting them, not shielding them, allowing them to be their most authentic expression of self, because the masculine energy works to be their most authentic expression of self, works to be their own energetic rock by building that sense of emotional stability within their own self that protects the feminine even from the energetic deviations of a masculine. That's a feminine energy that, again, looks towards masculine and says, I trust your judgment, right? So that is, again, what we're seeing that is happening right now for the energy and the divine union frequency, because this is effectively a lot of the feminine energy and masculine in the divine union frequency, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Having that modality, having that point of even now, that level or degree of discernment may even be a moment where, again, some of the conversations that may be happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency could be feeling like extremely nuanced. They could be feeling like that moment where like there's some kind of flexibility here. There's some kind of adjustment that you're making because you're moving into that sense of higher self. And even now, that point of like looking at the past self and having to have that point of reassessment, that's that moment that feels like the amplification in terms of recognizing how far you've energetically gone while also making room for who you're energetically becoming. So we see even now for both masculine and feminine, that is creating that sense of energetic conflict to a certain extent. There is a little bit of nuance here that we see. There is, again, even a little bit of that energetic nostalgia, if you will, because this is almost like I told you, some of that fine tuning that we see that occurs, particularly, and I need to stress this right now, this could be the opening up of past situations and circumstances to be able to reevaluate and assess them given where you presently find yourself. Because what we're effectively seeing here is that moment that feels like the amplification of almost looking towards one another and saying, are we still on the same page about these things? Do we still feel these same ways? And that is because we see here for the energy at play, this is that moment that's almost saying, well, when we first made these decisions, we were almost energetically children. Like when we first came into the divine union, we almost have to look back at ourselves and see ourselves in that modality of being energetic children. We are now moving into this deepening energetic connection. Is this still serving? Are we still in the same place in terms of our manifestation goals? Or do we need to come into a space or state of making some kind of adjustments, right? So we see even now, this is like a lot of that like mature, refined conversation that occurs right now in partnership, but it feels like it's extremely energetically nuanced. Now, masculine and feminine energy that is coming into the divine union frequency. This breakthrough point is the energy coming into the breakthrough of feeling like you've come into the divine union frequency. And even now we see that there's a lot of amplification on some feelings of nostalgia here. But what's beautiful about it is, again, the ability to almost hold space for each other in terms of what you're letting go. And we almost see some of this energy coming into divine union, almost saying to one another, like, you know, I see that you're surrendering some things. Are you going to miss that? Are you going to miss that place? Are you going to miss this? Are you going to miss that? And the energy almost saying yes, but no. Like yes, but no. Because that's the energy that's basically saying, again, the outweighing of the vector of nostalgia creates a space or place where we can look back. Like the energy is already looking back at their past self prior. This is energy coming into divine union, looking back at the person they were like a month or two ago and being like, well, that's not us anymore. Now we're this. Like now we're this. That's like that. And that's even now, it's almost the energy being like, oh, look, I remember when I was like, you know, like these are those relinquishing moments that we see. And it's not that moment of someone saying like holding on and being like, no, it's the energy of being like, you know, yeah, I care about those things. I care about that person. But ultimately the direction that I'm moving towards, Like that's why it becomes nostalgia, because someone is able to almost articulate and say, I will always have care for that thing, that place, that person. But what I'm moving towards is like, that is the direction of it, right? Like that is that guidance system coming into play. The energy in separation right now is hitting one of those moments that we're not like it's getting there, but it's not exactly there yet, right? Feminine energy utilizing that power of discernment to want to see the masculine in that modality of knowing energetically or effectively what it is that they truly aspire and desire for. Feminine energy, like even now starting to build some energetic connections, but if they're seeing that confusion point, feminine energy is going like hitting the brakes on something and being like, hold up, what is it that you want? And if the masculine energy seems to have some of that energetic confusion right now, this is almost a lot of feminine energy about to make a lot of friends. A lot of friends, because there's a lot of masculine energy that may be very honest right now about that point of confusion. So this is the feminine energy being like, I deeply appreciate your honesty, but not seeing that intentionality creates that space that feminine doesn't feel energetically safe. Because when does the feminine energy feel energetically safe? When they see the authenticity, the honesty, combined with the intentionality of purpose. So for a lot of the masculine energy right now, recognizing this could be, again, feeling like you are going through an energetic or internal maturation process in separation, because you could have a moment that both of these energies, feminine is stopping themselves from potentially building a connection with a masculine that's coming through with authenticity but confusion. And masculine, you may be recognizing that feminine's putting a little distance between you or keeping you at a distance because they're waiting for you to, they're almost saying to you energetically or spiritually or maybe even tangibly, when you know what it is that you want, let me know. I'm also curious. Like that's that moment that like, even now we see that's masculine trying to identify what that is, recognizing that that is becoming the moment that you may be self-sabotaging the ability to form new energetic connections with feminine. Continuing to get clarification between our Six of Cups in combination with our Judgment card in its reversal, in combination with our Ace of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Swords. The problem with this is, again, masculine energy. This is that GPS system. Let's go all like this. Masculine energy in this modality right now, in separation, this is feeling, how do I explain this? This is feeling like some point of energetic frustration, if you will, right? Because we see even now that there's a lot of this energy that is like taking, there's so many directions is what I'm seeing here. It's really saying to me, there's so many directions that it's almost creating that sense of energetic confusion, if you will, right? Because we're seeing to a certain extent, and this is what I'm energetically seeing for some of the masculine energy that just has to be navigated. And this is what I was saying to so much of the masculine energy right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. There's a lot of the masculine energy in separation that's going through a lot of what if scenarios. But they're almost saying to them, I can almost see the energy going, what if, but if I go in this direction, what if they don't? Like, what if they, like, it's a lot of, like, yes, that's exactly true. What if? Whenever we move, that's why I kept saying, like, that's why the message that kept coming through was the articulation point of remembering that when we move with intentionality, we relinquish the outcome, right? We have to relinquish the outcome because we never know what can energetically happen. But when we move with intentionality, we don't move in that direction because we feel a certainty that something will definitely pan out the way that we energetically aspire and desire it to. We do so because that is what we feel like we must do to be able to understand and see the outcome. When we move with a state of intentionality, we have to energetically surrender the desired outcome, if you will, because that ability to walk into the unknown, to allow our hearts to guide us in a direction without feeling the absolute certainty that it will lead to what we hope to. That is the difference between following our heart, which is a vulnerable path, versus doing what is energetically the safe thing. So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy, that ability to like energetically surrender the ability of assuring the safe outcome, that in itself is the energetic battle that's happening with a lot of the masculine energy internally, as it were, because this is that moment that feels like the equivalent of having to learn how to put one's heart on their sleeve, having to lead forward with that. And that's an incredibly vulnerable space. And even now, for a lot of the masculine energy, recognizing that to a certain extent, understanding when we do that, we always put ourselves in some kind of state or space of energetic risk, if you will. That is that moment that needs to be based on the fact that doing so might lead, right? That ability might lead to what could be an effective relationship, or it could lead to at least healing a karmic circumstance. Right? Like here's the thing. It's not a negative so long as it's what you aspired and desired to do. And we see even now there's something about the masculine energy itself. It goes against the energetic grain to be able to move in that way because it feels like it is disempowering. But again, what is more empowering than coming towards someone from a state of authenticity and intentionality? There's nothing stronger, and it makes you feel nothing makes you feel weaker than the moment you are being completely strong. Masculine and feminine energy may be basically feeling like this on the part of a masculine, like seeing the masculine in this way. And that's why I have to stress this. Listen, I have to stress this. Can you understand? Feminine energy can like energetically tell the difference between a masculine that's coming towards them because they feel like it's a safe direction, because they're trying to cover their bases energetically, versus a difference between masculine energy that's taking that energetic risk. Feminine energy can knows that implicitly. They know. So what's happening right now for a lot of the feminine energy that's seeing a masculine energy that's going, no, I want to be here. No, I want to be here. No, it's fun. I want to be here. This is feminine energy going, I don't think you want to be here. This is the feminine energy saying, are you sure you want to be here? Because you're doing a lot of this, right? And so that's really painful for the feminine energy to encounter. It hurts the feminine energy to see a masculine that comes towards them, but doesn't have that intentionality. So we see even now that that's a lot of the feminine energy almost stepping back a little from masculine if they're experiencing that and saying, maybe it's better at this time if we're just energetically supporting each other on our healing journey. Because that's a feminine energy almost looking and saying, I don't know if this person really wants to be on this path because they're going like this too much. They're giving themselves whiplash. So we see even now that a lot of the feminine energy is almost saying to the masculine, when you know what direction you want to move into, let me know, but not until that point. And that's the feminine energy saying this isn't happening because you're being authentic, because this is the feminine energy that would be able to tell that was happening, like regardless of whether you were being honest about it. Feminine energy can just tell. It's more the feminine energy saying, I need to feel that sense of conviction. I want to feel that you're coming towards me because you've decided you want to come towards me. The energy that's going into divine union right now feels that. That's the feminine energy that's seeing the masculine moving towards the feminine with absolute conviction. And that's not a masculine that is pretending nothing happened in the past. This is the masculine energy that's saying, I'm taking those lessons from the past and I'm applying them to you right now. I've learned these lessons. And you are the person I want to learn these lessons with. I want to take these lessons. I want to give them to you. Here they are. Boom. Look at all the lessons I learned. Happy birthday. It's like that's kind of the energy that's happening right now for the energy coming into divine union. It's not pretending you met the perfect person. It's the person saying, I'm not perfect, but here are all my chips. All of them. No, here, I got an extra one in my pocket. You're putting them all on the table, right? Masculine doing that and being like, I'm not going to hold back with you. I'm giving it all to you. You're not even asking it. I'm giving it to you because you're the energy helping me have these breakthroughs. Feminine, seeing the masculine, just giving that. You're throwing yours in too because you're like, there it is. I didn't have to ask them to. Oh, they're just doing it and I'm doing it as well. Masculine and feminine energy. And that's the difference of being able to say, yeah, I mean, I it's not that the things in the past weren't great. I'm always going to be a little sad about them. I'm always going to be a little hurt about stuff that happened, but I'm here. You make those lessons worth it. You are the answer to those lessons. Like, that is the shift. And that starts with intentionality. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union frequency. That's something that you've already processed. You made that choice quite some time ago. So we see even now that for the energy in the heart of the divine union, this has more to do with where you're going. And even now, there's a lot of this assessment that's happening. And it's coming at a moment of basically almost looking at one another and saying, we don't want to become stagnant. We don't want to be the type of energy that sits in the divine union and grows stagnant there, because that's how you fall back into separation. So what is this energy doing right now? They're staying flexible. They're staying adaptable. They're making changes. They're assessing where they are. They're seeing how far they've come and then saying, where do we go next? Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ace of Cups and its reversal in combination with our Seven of Swords. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Three of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. One of the hurdles that we're just energetically seeing to a certain extent that's happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency just has to do with like your own energetic time, your own energetic space, your own ability right now to like almost assess and recognize that there may be a lot of things that you aspire and desire to do, but you can't do everything, right? So even now we see that a lot of that process has to do with some ability, like what is happening right now. This is like when you're in the divine union frequency for too long, you start carrying too much stuff. Things become too heavy. You can't pick up one thing without energetically putting down another. You just can't do it. It's like there's only so much. And there's only so much you can do with so much. You've only got, so even now we see energetically that a lot of this energy is navigating that frustration in terms of and identifying, what one feels like they need to do versus what feels like it is energetically extraneous right now, to try to come into that space of freeing up more energy to be able to move forward, right? That's like that moment, trying to push against the stagnation point. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is just leaving that energy behind. That stagnation point is you leaving your old self behind, leaving your old life behind as you move into divine union. But you're not, again, feeling the weight of it, seeing it in real life, but also like not necessarily energetically caring, because again, this is a masculine that's, again, feminine's feeling the building up of that connection, because this is masculine energy that's holding firm in relationality to all of those energetic changes that are either happening within or without as they move forward in this way. Because this is a masculine saying, I have all that doesn't matter. This is what matters. I have all that I'm looking for right here. Masculine and feminine seeing that is the feminine feeling that as well. Feminine feeling like I have found what I'm looking for, because that's someone who moves in that way. Masculine and feminine that are in separation. This is why we see a lot of the feminine energy right now is just moving away from some masculine, potentially even new masculine connections that they're making, because this feminine energy is effectively coming into that state or space of looking towards a masculine and saying, I know you're being authentic. I know you're being open. I know you're being clear. I know you're trying to build honestly with me, but what you are expressing seems like it may be outweighing the fact that you may not necessarily want to energetically be where you are, right? Because this is that moment that we're energetically seeing to a certain extent, that a lot of this energy is, again, with feminine, trying to avoid situations or circumstances with masculine not having the same intentionality in terms of moving towards a manifestation goal of the feminine. So even now, this is feminine energy. If they're seeing any very, very heightened discernment right now, this eclipse energy is amplifying the discernment in the feminine to such an extent that this is almost the feminine energy saying, like, if any of that shows itself, this is feminine energy pulling away from that masculine energy, saying, I'm not going to repeat that lesson. If you're going to be holding on to some past person and looking like this the whole time, that's not you saying that you want to move forward. It has to have the intentionality of purpose. So even now we see that this could be something that feminine is unpacking, if you will, potentially even with new masculine connection, saying, are you sure you energetically want to be here? Because you may be being honest, but the feminine saying, what do you want? What does that look like? Tell me what that manifestation goal is. The feminine is not offering it unless they receive it from the masculine, because I told you a lot of the feminine energy right now is also learning the valuable lesson of not wanting a masculine to just energetically say or affirm the feminine energy's manifestation goals in order to just facilitate a connection with feminine. This is feminine energy saying, I will show you my manifestation goal if you tell me yours. Continuing, and this is a moment for a lot of the masculine energy. I can see that it feels like a point that may feel somewhat energetically confusing, because this is that moment that you may be feeling like you need to effectively or energetically decide which direction to go in. And that's that moment that, again, if this is a masculine energy that may at some point was like trying to energetically cover your bases by having a lot of connections with feminine. What was that? Like, that's a moment of recognizing that when you build, covering your bases energetically with a lot of feminine energy, feminine always knows you're doing that. It's not like you're getting away with that in any modality. Feminine can always recognize that that's happening, but this is why a lot of the masculine energy, this modality, may be saying to themselves, I'm doing it again. Because if you're trying to build shallow, like feminine energy sees a masculine that tries to build a lot of energetic connections with a lot of feminine and says, this is someone that doesn't want to choose a direction. So what does the feminine energy do? Keeps the energy in the shallow end. Feminine says, I can only have a shallow connection with this energy. This is the feminine energy that's like trying to say, like, effectively, this is again the feminine energy saying, whatever you bring me, I will reflect. Whatever you bring me, I will reflect. But even now we see that a lot of the feminine energy doing this is almost now in a place of going, I'm no longer going to reflect it. Because that's the feminine energy saying, I don't have the time to reflect that energy. I'm just not choosing it anymore. You can find, this is the feminine energy saying, I know there's other feminine energy that will tolerate the energy moving in that space. You can go find that energy, because this is a lot of the feminine energy saying, it's not for me. I'm not someone who can navigate a shallow connection like that. Move towards me with intentionality or don't move towards me at all. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Seven of Swords in combination with our Five of Wands. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Cups, because the problem with a lot of the masculine energy, I don't mean problem. Let's confirm. So what's potentially happening right now is, again, half an energetic lesson has been learned. Half an energetic lesson is occurring here. For a lot of the masculine energy and separation, the observation of wanting to build forth from a place of honesty with feminine, that is valid. Masculine energy, if you aspire and desire to build forth with feminine from a place of honesty and clarity, that is valid. That is only one half of what you can energetically do. Because if you are articulating, if you are being honest to feminine about the fact that you are confused, on the fact that you're still considering going back to past situations or scenarios, you have to ask yourself, what are you being honest about? Is that really what you want? Is that what you're hoping to build with a feminine? Are you going towards a feminine and saying, let me tell you what I would like? I would like to be able to go back to past situations, right back into the place that caused all of this energetic conflict. I'd like to go back there, and I'd like to keep that possibility open. I'd like to keep possibility open with this. I'd like to keep possibility open with that. That's a feminine energy saying, well, you're being honest, but you're not telling me that you want to energetically build with me. You're telling me that you just want to recruit me to engage in whatever that energetic battle is. Like, that's a feminine energy being like, do you want to build with me? Or are you still fighting something? Because that's the difference between feminine being like, I want to build something with you, but it seems like you're still energetically fighting something. So even now we see that there's a lot of energy. This could be feminine almost having a lot of this conversation with masculine, saying it seems like you're still energetically struggling with something here. And this is the energy saying, I can help you, but I can't move with you in this way because you're not showing, you're not like, you have to be able to release the past in order to build forward into the future, right? So we see even now that this is a lot of the masculine energy. And again, if this is masculine energy, if you're doing this work, you may be recognizing spaces and places. And this may be something that may be occurring right now, where you may be recognizing that there are places and people that you give your intentionality to. And there are places and people you give your honesty to. And if those are two different places, being able to bring them together is the heart of intimacy. It is the hardest thing to do. It is also the best thing to do. So we see even now that a lot of the energy of the masculine, being able to recognize that, to narrow one's focus, to come into a state or space of honesty, while also maintaining that state of intentionality, to be able to approach feminine and be able to give them that dream, to tell them what you aspire for, to give them that vision of what you hope for. That ability right now to do so is the amplification of being able to build a positive connection with feminine. And we see even now that ability, it is hard because again, it feels a lot like the like having to put one's heart on one's sleeve, right? It feels like it is inherently fraught with a lot of risk, and that's because it is. Whenever we move into spaces and places of energetic intimacy, they are very energetically fraught places, but they're also the most energetically rewarding. And if we find someone that we offer that to and they decline it, it is not an act of rejection. It is a moment of recognizing that someone is not in alignment with our manifestation goals. So we see even now that a lot of the masculine energy working through this is a lot of that internal journey. And it's a lot of recognition that's almost requiring that sense of stepping back and saying, what do I truly want? Not just in the moment, but what do I see? Where do I see myself? What type of connection is that? So that you're able to best articulate it. Feminine energy, you may be experiencing this right now with a lot of the masculine energy, some of the masculine and new connections that feminine's making, which is again, potentially seeing some masculine energy right now. That again, it's not that they're not being authentic or open, but there is that lack or degree of being able to clarify what it is that they're seeking. So we see even now, a lot of the feminine energy is potentially trying to move into that space of trying to like energetically help someone through this, but not necessarily allowing themselves to get passionately connected to someone, because this is feminine energy that's trying to avoid moving back into a situation or circumstance that they may have felt like they just energetically healed from. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. For the energy that's coming into divine union, this is that, again, this is that chip moment that we talked about. But the energy that's in divine union, that's that moment of all of that conflict moving into the realm of nostalgia. You know, having that space to hold it, but not wanting to go back to it. Instead, just utilizing it to build that connection point, to articulate on what you're building with another. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Five of Wands in combination with our King of Pentacles. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now. Three of Pentacles. Okay? The energy in separation. This is what the energy of the feminine is saying to the energy of the masculine in separation, which is you seem like you're in energetic conflict. When you're not, you know where to energetically find me. This is the feminine energy saying, you know, I can see that honesty. I appreciate, look at this. This is feminine energy. If they're encountering masculine in this modality, they're actually saying, you seem like great. Your ability to be honest, your ability to be authentic is great. But you also potentially, if like this could almost be feminine having to say to some masculine energy, but you also seem a little uncertain as it is to what it is that you're actually seeking. You seem a little uncertain as to what it is that you're actually trying to create. It just seems like there's still a lot of energetic conflict here. So this is the feminine energy that's again saying to the masculine, what do you want? What do you want? The feminine energy waiting for that response from the masculine, because that's the feminine energy saying, if you're conflicted about that, then it doesn't give us any opportunity to build anything, because then I have to operate from a state of not knowing what you want. Okay? Masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union. This is feminine energy getting both sides of that energetic device. That's the energy of the feminine seeing a masculine that is all honest, building with feminine from a place of openness and is being very intentional, which is a masculine being like, I want you. Like, I want to tell you what the world is I want with you. I want to open my life to you. I want to build that with you. So the feminine energy, seeing and experiencing that, is a moment of feminine feeling like, again, that groundbreaking moment, because that's that moment of the feminine feeling like the masculine is a safe haven from all the conflict around them, because that's a mass feminine that says, I know this is my rock. Like, this is my energetic rock. I know their direction. I know their intentionality. Like, this is the feminine energy feeling like, again, being able to weather any storm with a masculine, because this is a feminine energy that doesn't have to doubt the judgment of that masculine, right? Masculine energy in this modality, this is a moment, again, your ability to find that sense of intentionality within the self, moving in that direction, maintaining that cardinal point, and recognizing that that cardinal point is something that, like, you navigate regardless of your own energy or your own emotionality. Like, that is the moment of a masculine truly feeling like the security and strength of creating something for themselves, because that's a masculine that doesn't just do something because it's easy. That's a masculine energy that does it because it's what they desire to do, even if it's hard. So for both of these energies, the energy in the heart of the divine union frequency, this is the lesson that they take from one another, right? This is the feminine saying, I will do anything to support the energy of a masculine that I know will do anything to support me, right? That is the give and take. That is the battery running, right? These energies not doing that because it's easy. They do it because they've made that intentional choice. And that is the energy even now we see for the heart of the energy in the divine union, trying to figure out like what that next thing is, trying to like build that place going forward. It feels like you're always encountering or covering or like, you know, building forward, right? That's that moment that feels like it's that continual cycle of growth, because like you're not just staying stagnant there, you're constantly pushing one another to come into that better version of self. But in a way that we feel that validation point of doing that because we choose to and we aspire to become that. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Swords in combination with our Three of Cups in its reversal. We've got here our Knight of Pentacles, masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency. This is what we energetically see to a certain extent now. For masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, this is that modality that we see even now. Feels like that amplification point in relationality to masculine energy's own like here's what this is the masculine energy literally learning to control their own reactivity in the divine union frequency, because we see even now that there's a little bit of this energy of masculine that's experiencing or encountering some of like the energetic opposition in the world around them right now. And what is this energy doing? This energy is like returning to itself, taking the lessons that they've learned being in the divine union energy. And this is a moment where like it feels like it starts becoming supportive to anything outside of it, because this is the masculine energy that's already learned that like ability to experience something that they would have had a different reactivity point in prior to being in the heart of the divine union frequency, but is able to come into that point of like readjustment, if you will, like turning their own self around from the point of not allowing themselves to become energetically reactive. That's the gift of the masculine that thinks about the energy of the divine union before taking any necessary movement, because that's the energy of a masculine that's always putting that sensitivity to the fact that they're in the divine union first, and it's helping them learn how to balance themselves energetically. It's creating new ideas, new opportunities, new ways of tackling problems. Feminine seeing a masculine doing that feels that validation point, because feminine recognizes and realizes that that's almost masculine energy that's learned some kind of sense of profound spiritual or energetic patience via the connection with expanding their own emotional center from being in the heart of the divine union frequency. It's like the masculine, leading with their heart, but thinking with their head. It's not that they're losing that ambition and drive. They're just not creating the reactivity point. They're utilizing it in a practical way. Feminine energy, feeling that, and again, feeling that validation of seeing a masculine move in that way. Like, again, the feminine energy, almost saying, like, I can see the fact, this is feminine energy looking towards masculine and divine union, saying, I trust your judgment. Right? And why does the feminine trust the masculine's judgment? Did she just assume that she can trust it? No, because she's seen evidence of a masculine that is always thinking from the perspective of the divine union. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union, this is the energetic equivalent of a masculine offering a true commitment towards a feminine. And this isn't a feminine feeling like they need to like shake it out of the masculine like a toy out of a box of Cracker Jacks. This is a feminine energy that feels like it does not need to be said because it's obvious in the way that the masculine is opening up to the feminine about all aspects of their life. In the divine union frequency, there's no question that can't be unanswered. So we see even now, even that ability, like what's happening right now for a lot of the energy in the divine union frequency, talking about past connections, even as you're forming a new one. But even the ability to talk energetically about past connections, it doesn't feel like the amplification point of someone who aspires to go back to them. It's almost saying that the energy is discussing what was so problematic about the past connections that amplifies what's so positive in the present. That doesn't mean that there wasn't a lack of care on those connections, but that's that moment that feels like the safe space that you create with another to talk about the past because you recognize that the past is the past. Feminine, seeing and feeling that with a feminine, masculine is potentially doing the same to masculine. And again, are these energies becoming reactive? No, because they know, they can see it. It goes with beyond saying that the ability, and in fact, being able to talk about them so freely is the energetic equivalent of being able to look at something with nostalgia that does not indicate a desire to return back to something. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, you're not seeing that. What we're potentially seeing right now that may be creating a moment of problematicness for some of the feminine energy specifically is, again, and some of the masculine here. There could be some masculine energy that's also experiencing this. Someone who seems like they're saying that they're in that modality wherein they're ready to move forward, but their focus seems way too oriented on what they've left behind. Again, what happens when we lead forward with openness, when we lead forward with openness, but not intentionality? We're open about the fact that we're confused. We're honest about the fact that we're confused. So we see even now, but this is happening more on the side of the feminine experiencing it from the part of the masculine, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. If this is feminine energy that seems like there's a masculine that is far too overly concentrated on the past energy, feels like they're still in some kind of energetic conflict, feels like, and again, most importantly, feels like they're still in some connection point or reactivity point towards that. Like there's something here that it doesn't feel like it's a closed cycle. It feels like something that's actively happening. Because guess what? A relationship is a relationship. If you're still in communication with someone, if you're still actively moving in that way, it is a relationship. Albeit it might not be a positive one. This is that moment of feminine potentially feeling like there's too much energy still being expressed towards something, as opposed to what is being presently offered. So we see even now that this is feminine energy that is, again, utilizing a lot of discernment, requiring the masculine to be clear in terms of what it is that they actually want, to clarify any confusion surrounding the masculine presently, particularly around past or present connections. Masculine energy, you may be recognizing right now a lot of the feminine energy, if you're going, and especially if this is masculine energy that's trying to build a lot of connections with a lot of different feminines all at once, but being honest to everybody. This is, again, the feminine energy saying honesty is only one part of that. You can't just have honesty. You also need to have intentionality. You have to say what it is that you actually want. So we see even now the feminine energy saying, if you're doing that, the authenticity, and this is like this clarity, honesty is good, but honesty does not mean that you can move. Like when you move from honesty without intentionality, it just creates confusion, right? because that's that moment of saying you're honestly telling everyone that you're confused. Intentionality without honesty is manipulation. So combining honesty and intentionality is a moment that creates an actual energetic offer. So we see even now a lot of the feminine energy maybe helping guide the masculine and helping them recognize this so that the masculine can get a better understanding of what energetic direction they want to move into right now. Because I've told you, there's a moment of a masculine recognizing and understanding something that requires a path in terms of which way to move. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Nine of Cups in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with what happens when we lead with with clarity but not intentionality. It just creates confusion. Honesty can be just as confusing as falsehood when there isn't intentionality attached to it. Because if that is the difference between us feeling like we are moving with a sense of purpose versus moving with no energetic purpose. So we see even now that a lot of the energy may be hitting that moment where, again, for the feminine energy, almost moving back from someone and feeling like, again, this person is authentic, but they're energetically confused. Or masculine, if this is a moment that you're feeling that sense of wanting to create something, it requires you to do that hard work of combining your authenticity with your intentionality, even if that is something that feels incredibly intimate to do. It requires a lot to be able to move forward in that way, and understanding that you're right, that when you move forward with a state of intentionality, when you make a choice, you abandon or you relinquish other choices. You can't leave yourself open. When you leave yourself open to any option, you don't move in any direction. So we see even now that some of that anxiety is coming to bear for a masculine that may be trying to say, well, I'm just trying to keep my options open, but almost saying there's a difference between exploring a possibility and not having a direction. You can say, I want to explore everything that happens if I go due north. But you can't say to oneself, I would like to explore all the possibilities in every direction at all times. Because that's that moment. You know what that's called? That's called walking in a circle. That's walking in a circle. So we see even now that the feminine energy is basically saying to the masculine, wait, it seems like you're browsing. It seems like you're browsing. And there's a difference between saying, I would like to explore the possibilities with you, versus saying, I would like to explore all of the possibilities. Like that is the difference. So we see even now it requires that level of articulation on what it is that you truly aspire as it relates to what you're trying to manifest for yourself. What is the shape of that? What does that look like? For a lot of the feminine energy, this is a moment that a lot of the feminine energy is almost saying, if a masculine can't bring this forth, no thank you. Like it's really a lot of that energy is just like stepping away from the table before something's even begun. Masculine, you may be feeling this at a moment that feels like a point of energetic confusion. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is, again, making an intentional choice towards someone, acknowledging and recognizing all of the other possibilities, moving away. But is it shaking your concentration? No. Because that's what happens when we move in with intentionality. We recognize that the chips will fall as they may, but when we're concentrated on something, we don't care about the chips. That's the whole point. Like we're focusing on something. So we see even now that ability to do so is the validation point on why this energy feels secure to move forward with one another. Because this is energy that says, I'm with you, not because of what's happening around us. I'm with you because I am with you energetically. And even that moment feels like, again, a little bit of that us against the world kind of energy, because that's that moment of saying we are in it together, regardless of the outcome, regardless of the circumstances. Masculine and feminine energy in the heart of the divine union frequency. This is what you effectively do all the time. You're used to this type of energy because you've been in there. You've been in this energy. Like you've been in the thick of it for quite some time now. The thing about this right now is, again, this is actually a moment that feels like you're navigating through, because this is something where being in the divine union frequency has almost created so much right now that it requires that moment of energetic refinement in terms of focusing on how you're going to go forward. And there's that moment that you almost feel like the only way to go forward is to like make sure that you've got that energetic bandwidth to a certain extent. So we see even now a lot of a concentration potentially in the day-to-day, trying to bring harmony, trying to say to oneself, it's not enough to just try to move towards the manifestation goals. How do we embody the feeling of harmony that would exist at the time that a manifestation is reached in the present? Because there's no point moving towards a manifestation goal if it's going to feel awful every step of the way. That's the ability of being able to relinquish and surrender the outcome because you're already in the state that you aspire to be in. Clarification coming through right now with our Nine of Cups in its reversal in combination with our Three of Pentacles. One card to clarify. Clarification coming through right now with our Queen of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in the divine union frequency. This is a little bit of that energetic shift that we're experiencing. Now you remember, over the last few days, it was a little bit easier for the feminine. Today, it's a little bit easier for the masculine. Specifically, due to the fact that we are seeing that feminine energy, I'm not surprised to see this. Feminine energy has a harder time energetically letting go of things. Like this is actually, they're saying to me, in the tangible space and in the practical, in the energetic space, right? That sense of energetic nostalgia can almost have, you know, like that moment of like not wanting to let something go, even though it feels like it's energetically extraneous, but like being like, but what, it's like, that's almost like that moment that we see that like the feminine's going through right now. And some of the masculine maybe like helping the feminine in this way, being like, it's just, it's not, you know, I mean, like, what is this? You know, it's like almost like one of those moments, like almost like having to hold up something, like, what is this? I'd be like, it was a thing. And be like, do we need this? No. I have a memory. It's okay, but you just let it go. No, you know, it's like giving like a little bit of that type of energy. So even now, this release process, it feels like a little bit more difficult, right? But that's because the feminine energy, you know, that ability to like, you know, hold, like release in that way, it feels more energetically difficult for the feminine, right? Because feminine energy doesn't like, if I'm getting our feminine energy had their way, they would just like hold on to everything. They just hold on to everything. Okay. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency. That is that modality that we're effectively seeing, as it were, that is coming into the divine union frequency even now, is like even some of this process here. This is why I told you what's happening right now for a lot of the energy that's coming into the divine union frequency right now. Masculine is making a lot of these like abrupt changes. They're almost like coming into this. What's happening now? What happens when these energies are actually in alignment is the masculine wants to start to move forward faster, and the feminine is the one that pulls back, right? Because that is the moment of the feminine that becomes like masculine, like, oh, we're going to go into all these changes. And feminine's like, I don't want to let go of these things so much. Like it's harder for the feminine because that's that moment that feminine feels the energetic connection with the masculine that they're seeing. But that's that moment that like that ability to energetically release is a part of that trust process, if you will. So we see even now, like this is like a moment for feminine that there may be that feeling of like a little bit of instability that may have to be recognized in terms of finding that balance point in energetic timing. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now for masculine and feminine energy that's in separation. This is why a lot of the feminine energy may be stepping back from a lot of the masculine that they may be meeting at this time, particularly if this is masculine energy that is being very open, honest to feminine, trying to build from a place of clarity, but isn't very open and honest about what they're proposing or what they aspire and desire to build with the feminine. Like this is almost a masculine being like, I would like an honest relationship. And feminine being like, great. What is that? I will be honest with you in all things. Okay. What does that look like? Nothing but honesty. I'll be nothing but clear. What do you want? Like he's literally the masculine. And this is the feminine being like, are you in the right place? Are you in the right place? Like, are you supposed to be in here? What are you looking for? Like, it's almost giving like a bit of that. So the feminine almost looking at the masculine and being like, almost like, this is either coming through with feminine being like profoundly confused or just being like, oh, I see what's happening. You're being open, but you're not, you don't know what you want. or you're afraid to tell me, right? That's the feminine. I'm literally going through this process. If this is happening, going either one of three things is happening. Either you really don't have a single clue what you want, like you don't want to tell me what you want, or you're afraid to tell me what you want. None of those, this is feminine going, any of those, it doesn't matter which one it is. None of them are viable to build with you. That's a feminine going, let's be friends. This could be a lot of the feminine energy. If that's experience being like, you seem lovely, we can be friends. Like that's a feminine energy being like, you don't have, you're not giving me anything to work with, right? Masculine, you may be experiencing and realizing this. And that could be one of the three different modalities that is happening right now that is causing some of that. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Pentacles in combination with our Ten of Pentacles in its reversal. It's hard. Masculine, I mean, look, this is that moment. I can see it even now. Masculine, this is that moment where, again, being honest is half the battle. Building that sense of honesty, but again, being able to be articulate on what it is that you aspire and desire. It's frightening. It can be very energetically difficult to be able to be open and honest with someone because it feels energetically like you're putting your heart on your sleeve. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy navigating this right now, it almost feels like, it feels to a certain extent like, and again, a lot of the masculine energy trying to navigate this, I can even see it internally going, why do I feel like this? Why do I feel so afraid to just tell someone what I energetically want? Because this is almost that moment of, again, the energetic fear of judgment. Whenever we tell someone, when we're authentic about what it is that we aspire and desire, there's always that anxiety of energetic rejection. But again, that isn't energetic rejection. If you tell someone what you aspire and desire and they say no thanks, that doesn't mean that it's an act of rejection towards you. It means that you're in the wrong place, right? So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that is that moment, that is the amplification point in recognizing something there. Right? That is that moment of effectively saying, taking that moment and allowing that to be the amplification of energetically freeing yourself from the sense of judgment if someone chooses that they don't aspire and desire to have what you're offering them isn't an act of rejection. It's an act of alignment. Feminine, you may be almost seeing this. So what's hard for a lot of the feminine energy is potentially feeling that anxiety and fear that some of the masculine may have like this, and almost the feminine saying, let me surprise you. I can't show you unless you show me. Give me that chance to prove whether we're in alignment. Because you'd be surprised. Like this is almost a feminine energy. Like give me the opportunity to potentially energetically surprise you. Right? Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that modality that we see that you've already energetically surprised each other. This is the masculine that led forward to feminine and said, this is what I want with you. I don't care what the rest of the world wants. This is what I want with you. I don't care what the rest of the world does as I move towards you with this. I don't care what the rest of the world does. You are my focus. What I create with you is my focus. And that for the masculine feels like that liberation point because that's masculine again, letting their intentionality of purpose speak for the direction that they move into. Is the validation point that feels like the liberation point. And feminine, seeing a masculine that moves in that way is the feminine energy building into a connection where they know that the offer of masculine is one that is not based on circumstances, because circumstances don't change people, they reveal people. So we see even now that is that validation point. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency, this is that moment that feels energetically like a point of having to do a little bit, I keep seeing, having to like narrow one's own focus right now, because again, there's a lot of energetic opportunity that we see that is occurring right now, but having to like really prioritize is a bit of that energetic hurdle right now. A little bit easier for the masculine, a little bit harder for the feminine, but feminine is utilizing the connection, like looking towards masculine for energetic inspiration as they try to do that, go through that, do that same work. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between, as I said, doing that kind of spring cleaning, if you will. Easier for the masculine, harder for the feminine right now, right? So for the energy, clarifying the Ten of Pentacles in its reversal and the Queen of Pentacles, we have here Strength card. It's more of an act of strength for the feminine, because look at this. This is what's so funny about this. For the masculine, it feels liberating, right? It feels like masculine's just like, I'm cutting cords, I'm cutting my hair, I'm freeing myself of the fetters of the world, I'm focusing on what I'm focusing on, nothing can distract me. Feminine's going, I'm disappointing everyone. I'm disappointing everyone. I have to focus on one thing. And anytime I focus on one thing, I let everybody else down. I need to push through and not feel like I'm failing because I can't do everything. It feels like a failure point. And the masculine's going, no, you have to look at it like a liberating process, that you're lucky to be able to like do that work. So we see even now, it's like that moment. It does feel like the energetic pulling of teeth moment where masculine's like, I'm getting a haircut. And feminine's like, you're pulling the teeth out of my mouth. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union. This is the same exact energy if there's a lot of shifts that's happening right now, especially with planning. Because this is the feminine energy. It's like, can we just keep the connection like this without changing anything? Because now I've got like all this stuff and now you're asking me to change my stuff and then you're asking us to blend our stuff or potentially move our stuff and do all this stuff. And feminine's like, this is hard for me. This is hard for me energetically. And masculine's like, this is a breakthrough. I've never wanted to do this before. It's amazing. I finally figured out how to do this. And feminine's going, I'm terrified because now now is the moment of actually doing like the substantial parts, right? And now feminine's like, let's slow down. And masculine's like, let's hurry up. Masculine and feminine energy that's in separation. This is the moment that feels like this is actually why it's so energetically hard for feminine to do this right now. This is feminine energy. I need to stress, if this is feminine energy that used to accept energy like masculine like this, feeling like the connection point of masculine, looking towards a confused masculine and saying to themselves, I can fix that. Oh, they're confused, but I can fix that. They're confused. I just need to get them on the same page as me. This is why I'm telling you right now, the act of compassion of a feminine pushing a masculine away here is not rejection. This is feminine pushing against their own self. This is almost a feminine energy looking towards a masculine and being like, let's be clear. If this was another time or space, you coming towards me authentically but confused would not have been a blocker for me. I would have taken it as a perfectly fine red light that I would have passed through for the sense of feeling like I could energetically fix you and help you figure out what that direction is. This is why feminine energy is almost saying, I'm not saying no to this. I'm stopping myself energetically from going down that path again. And this is why it's so energetically difficult for a feminine experiencing this right now, because this is feminine being like, give me strength. Give me strength to avoid going through that process again. Masculine, this is that moment that may feel difficult because if this is a moment you're feeling to you, you're going, I'm doing the right thing. I'm being authentic. Shouldn't that be enough? And feminine's going, no. It's half the work. You're doing half the work, but it's not the full work. You have to be able to articulate. You have to pick a path. You have to move towards me with intentionality in terms of saying that you want to be with me. And then you also have to articulate what it is that you aspire going forward. Feminine energy is like, you have to be able to do those things or there's nothing here. It just moves into friendship. If you're just coming towards me with honesty and confusion, there's not going to be a partnership here. It's just going to be a friendship. Final card for today's spread between our Hangman in its reversal and the Strength card. Final card, you have to commit. This is the moment for masculine. Again, a lot of the masculine in separation, recognizing and understanding that the honesty, the clarity is good, but it's not all of it. The hard part is blending the clarity, the truth, with the intention. Speaking it into existence, telling feminine what you truly aspire for is that hard work, but that is the path of openness. It starts with you not only being able to be expressive about how you feel, but also being expressive and honest about what you want. Feminine, your ability to recognize that, it feels very painful right now because I can see the feminine in the separation point, seeing the masculine doing half the work here. The feminine approach to seeing the masculine approaching with authenticity and saying, you're halfway there. Can you do the other half? Do you have the other half? Where's the other half? And if the feminine is not seeing that, the feminine saying, I cannot come towards you. I cannot offer it to you. You have to offer it to me first. That's the feminine going, you understand, that's how I have to stay on my path. So both of these energies doing that path work, masculine almost there, feminine being like, please come forward, but if not, I can't do it for you. Energy coming into divine union, this is feeling both of those aspects coming into bear. The energy of someone coming towards you with honesty and also with intentionality is allowing for a lot of energy to move into divine union very quickly right now. And a lot of the masculine energy, that's the energy of the masculine. Feminine seeing like this is a masculine energy that knows how to double down. This is a masculine energy that's doubled down because that's a masculine energy saying, I'm committing to this because this is where I aspire to desire to be. And I don't care what else happens around me. This is what I aspire and desire for. And feminine seeing and experiencing that immediately matches that energetic equivalent. Because that sense of tenacity, that sense of intentionality, that sense of purpose for a feminine that feels that sense of connection to masculine, that is the divine union energy. And feminine almost feeling that sense of validation, and feminine feeling like and saying, I didn't have to ask for it, they're giving it to me, and that was my own power of discernment and recognizing an energy that was willing to move towards that with me. That's why the feminine isn't meeting the masculine halfway in that capacity. Masculine and feminine in the heart of the divine union right now, this modality that we are seeing is a moment that feels like there's a little bit of this like spring cleaning that's happening, being able to energetically move things out of the way to allow for those new opportunities to come forth. It feels like a lot of that energetic shedding, if you will, for masculine and feminine energy. Both of these to a certain extent. Masculine, it's a lot easier, right? Masculine's doing so with a lot more of that energetic equivalent of feeling the liberation point on it. Feminine, feeling that experience that's requiring a bit more of that energetic strength. Both of these energies right now doing that heavy work, doing that heavy lifting. For feminine, it's a little bit harder. Masculine, it feels more like a liberation point to be able to invest on what you're trying to create going forward. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now, Knight of Cups in its reversal. So again, masculine and feminine energy. One of the things that we're seeing right now for the energy of the masculine in the divine union frequency, this is that energetic equivalent here of the masculine. I have to say, to a certain extent, even now, masculine has like a little bit more of an easement point in surrendering the sentimentality of things. We're just seeing that. That's why even now, if this is like the tangible space, if this is like actual spring cleaning that's happening, masculine's much more like, let's just get rid of something. We don't need this, kind of shedding. Feminine's more like, no, I want to hold on to this because this is feminine being like, why don't you feel like this? And masculine being like, because I don't need to externalize my emotionality. Like, I don't carry it on my back. I carry it within, right? Feminine has more of a habit of externalizing their emotionality in objects. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. This is that energetic equivalent of, again, masculine being less sentimental about holding on to the past. Feminine holding a little bit more of that sentimentality if, again, this is actual spring cleaning, or even if this is energetic spring cleaning. It's a little bit harder for masculine to feel that sentimentality towards things. Masculine and feminine energy in separation. This is that moment or modality that we're seeing that is hard because the feminine, again, doesn't want to energetically, emotionally. If this is a new connection that is building up between masculine and feminine, what's hard for the feminine is it's not due to a lack of desire towards the feminine in this way. This is the feminine energy that may feel like a masculine is coming towards them with a lot of authenticity. But if it's not met with a clarity or an intentionality in terms of what it is that they aspire, if masculine's not able to like speak that into being, feminine energy is almost like having to kind of push that masculine energy away. Because this is almost the feminine's energy saying to the masculine, your feelings are not enough. You may be being completely authentic about how you feel, but feelings change. That's why the feminine says feelings are fickle. Intentionality is not. I need to know what your intentionality is, because your intentionality is you putting the word to the bond of your feelings. When you say that you have an intention for something, that's you saying, this is what I aspire and desire for, regardless of the fact that my energy or my feelings might shift. So we see even now that that's that moment that is that amplification point. And it feels hard because that's the feminine saying, I'm not trying to energetically reject you. I appreciate the authenticity you're coming towards me, but it's not energetically enough. And masculine potentially experiencing that may feel like a moment that you're feeling emotionally rejected, but recognize that's not an emotional rejection point. That's feminine basically saying, you seem like you are energetically confused as to what direction you're going in. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here to experience it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. I'd also like to ask you to join me. We are now starting a new class initiative over on Substack called Tarot Church. Each month we will be focusing on a particular card. There will be live classes. Your subscription will include you in those classes, as well as receiving all of the source materials for each class. You can find that over on my Substack, Gray Strega. Also, please do me a favor, and if you go to my website, there's a survey I would love you to fill out. It would take about 2 minutes. We are planning some new adventures in the upcoming year. I would love to see where you might like to go if we do a tarot travel trip. I hope you guys have an absolutely beautiful day. Please take care of each other, and we will do this again tomorrow.